you know, they're saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
But you can teach an elephant to water ski.
Water ski.
A young elephant to water ski. Yes, you can. Oh, this is so crazy.
I'm Demi, theme park YouTuber, aka Magical Hijinks.
And I'm entertainment journalist Joey Nolfi, and we've both been diagnosed with terminal theme park obsession, and we're definitely going to spread it to you on the Park Peeps podcast.
We've got years of theme park knowledge, so join us as we serve piping hot takes, park tea, offer the best travel hacks and tips, and chat with guests in the theme park space.
So sit down, buckle in, and pull up on that yellow strap while we dispatch for the Park Peeps podcast. Yes, that noise you hear is indeed another mechanism in the venture of the ever-expanding Park Peeps global expansion takeover. Demi and I have indeed purchased a $1 billion submersible from the profits we got in selling our last mansion in Golden Oak, because we are broadcasting live today from the deep sea depths of the Bermuda Triangle on an expedition we have deemed Mission Bermuda Triangle in search of historical findings of a long-lost, some might call it treasure, others it might be a different thing, but this treasure has long since sunk into the annals of theme park obscurity. The very, very weird history of, yes, an official SeaWorld park in Ohio. Demi, my co-captain, what is the sonar picking up?
Well, dear co-captain, I can confirm we are picking up an object on the sonar. Yay! It appears that the treasure is a link to follow us on all socials at Park Peeps Pod, and a link to subscribe to the Park Peeps Podcast Substack, The Peep Line, for extra tea, theme park fun, and bonus extras each week.
And that is parkpeepspodcast.substack.com. And Demi, we did it. That was it. That was our mission. That was it. And while we float back to the surface, make sure you're following me on socials at Joey Nolfi. Follow Demi at Magical Hijinks. You know it's HIJINX. But most importantly, the real treasure of this episode as we literally dive into the depths of theme park history. Make sure you're subscribed to our guest's YouTube channel at George's Space.
Yes, our guest who's here with us today is a well-versed theme park historian whose witty and highly informative deep dives into niche topics of the theme park world are some of the most addictive, well-researched clips on YouTube. Here to splash around with us in the history of one of the weirdest theme park developments, SeaWorld Ohio, please welcome YouTube documentarian George Browning. Hi, George.
Hi, guys.
George.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, weird's one way to describe it.
Yes, it is a very, very weird development. And I even remember thinking it was weird as a child, because I grew up going to SeaWorld Ohio, and even as like a 7-year-old, I was like, why is this here? This is so strange. Like seeing evergreen trees surrounded by, like, it was just the weirdest thing. So thank you for joining us to talk about this.
No problem. Yeah, inland ocean, it's sort of, you know, I mean, that's kind of sort of the point of SeaWorld Ohio, wasn't it? It was like bringing the ocean inland. But when you describe that to somebody, it's like, oh, where's the ocean park with all the sea life? Oh, it's in Ohio. Not even like on the lake either. It is on a lake. It's just not on the Great Lake.
Yeah, it's like it's Geauga Lake is like it's like the big brother to a massive pond, you could say. Geauga Lake was not really a lake. It was just like a puddle on steroids. That's essentially what Geauga Lake was. But the water had such a distinct smell. Let me tell you, the water on Geauga Lake, if you would have told me that they were just emptying all of the park bathrooms into that lake, I would have believed you.
Ew.
It had a very distinct color. You can even see now in some of the aerial photos of the abandoned site, there's like just pools of green, just stuff growing all along the banks. It's just, I'm painting a really lovely picture right now as we go into this. But no, people really should check out, George, you have so many amazing videos, and don't take this the wrong way, but I have fallen asleep to your videos so many times at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep and I just need a comfort thing to like lull me into just being like, I'm basking in a fellow theme park nerd's deep dives into things that just make me feel happy and comforted, your videos are often that thing. So thank you for that as well.
Plus, your voice is incredibly soothing.
Oh, yes.
That's one of those things, isn't it? That's like, initially when you hear people say, it's like, oh, I love to fall asleep to your videos. And I see the playlists that people put my videos in, and it's always like videos to fall asleep to. You think, yeah, that's a real insult. But I've come to realize that it's not at all. It's like, yeah, people love to listen to these and they watch them again and again. And that's, yeah, it's a really cool thing to be, I suppose, part of somebody's day, you could say. Like,
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, your videos are also widely consumed in my household while I'm also snacking. Like after a day at work, like don't get me wrong, I'm pulling out a bag of chips and I'm watching your videos.
That's the second best thing to being watched while you're asleep, is being watched while you're awake. So I'll take it.
Yes. Drag me, George. Drag me.
Well, George, as a primer for our audience, before we get into discussing this park in full, since you just put out that incredible video about SeaWorld Ohio, make sure to everyone to go check it out on George's YouTube channel, could you recap maybe a brief history of the greatest hits, open to close, SeaWorld Ohio, before we get into like the deeper discussion about this, again, weird park?
Yeah, so I'll try and give you the cliff notes of it. I tend to go really kind of off the rails when I research my videos, but I'll try and summarize as quickly as possible. So SeaWorld Ohio was the second SeaWorld park. You had the first one in San Diego, and that was their big hit. It opened in 1964, and then 1965 was when that really took off, because you had this captive killer whale that they brought at the time called Shamu, that everybody now knows is this international brand with a lot of sort of controversy, you could say, attached to it. And then, so that park was incredibly successful, and they were looking to expand eastwards. They didn't really know quite where, but eastwards, at the time, you've got to remember, this is before Disney World was built. And in 1965, Disney World was announced, so people knew that something was coming to Central Florida, but Central Florida wasn't quite the same level of like a tourist hub as it is now. And so it wasn't just the no-brainer to be like, oh, we're going east, we're going to build a park in Florida. So instead, they were looking for places to build these parks, and they went, okay, so the key requirement for us is we want a place with a lot of blue-collar workers. So people that maybe aren't going to be able to afford the trip out to California, but might go to a local place. And so they were looking between Detroit and Philadelphia, and they settled on this place called Geauga Lake. And it was just across from this pre-existing park named Geauga Lake. And they built this park for $5.5 million just across the lake from this other park. It opened in 1970 and was incredibly popular in its first few years, just because there was nothing really like this. You hadn't had the whole explosion of SeaWorld to places like Orlando and later San Antonio. And of course, it had its own Shamu, which was really the big draw in the early 70s. So it kind of lived this life, this successful but still kind of local park life. For the first decade or so of its existence, it had this Shamu show. It also had a sea lion show. It had a water skiing show. Lots of these, just the typical water sports shows that we think of with like marine animals. And then if you fast forward to the next big plot point for SeaWorld Ohio was in the late 80s, when the owners sold it to Anheuser-Busch, who are the owners of Busch Gardens. And Busch Gardens, this is kind of, if you want to talk about the modern era of theme parks, this moment in the late 80s was sort of where it all began. And Busch Gardens at the time was looking at this shift that was happening in theme parks, and theme parks were getting more theatrical. The rides were getting more intense. There were a lot more story-based attractions, a lot more thrill-based attractions. And Anheuser-Busch wanted to cash in on that, so they were expanding their own parks. And they were trying to do the same thing with SeaWorld Ohio. And so they started opening more of these attractions, like you had, I'm sure we'll get into it, you had a motion simulator attraction they opened there, you had a 4D show. And this is kind of where I hope I'm not going too off the rails of this. This is my,
No.
this is my sort of thing. And so this is sort of your second era of SeaWorld Ohio. But essentially, the big issue was that it couldn't expand to the same level as some of the other SeaWorld places that were opening because it had this agreement with Geauga Lake, which was that it couldn't open any actual rides. So eventually, this all sort of came to a head. Anheuser-Busch decided to cut their losses. They sold SeaWorld Ohio to Geauga Lake. They combined into a new park called Six Flags Worlds of Adventure. That lasted a few years. And then ultimately, in the mid-2000s, it then became a water park. And then finally, in about 2016, that water park closed. And instead of tearing it down or turning it into something else, the remainder of that time, it was left completely abandoned. And that's about where we're at today, just to give you a brief summary.
That is,
But let's give
that was great.
Let's clap for George. That's, you know what, we were like, George, let's do a little brief recap. And George gave us not the Cliff's Notes, that was the lesson plan, mama.
Yeah, but we'll definitely like dive in deep into all those little parts because there's so much that goes into like that broad, you know, overview that you just said. But it is a really it's why I'm really excited because I didn't know about SeaWorld Ohio until Joey and I started like doing the podcast. And so like when I watch your video and I hear and you're recapping this whole thing and hearing his experiences, it's really interesting. I think people are really gonna love hearing all like the meat and potatoes part of it.
Yeah.
But what I really want to ask you is because like you said, like they were looking to expand east. Did you come across did you come across any other locations that they were scouting?
So my understanding of the story is that Ohio was sort of the main place that they came across. It's they were at some point in time in Ohio specifically. There was talk of the team over at Cedar Point had approached SeaWorld and they asked them to build a park next to Cedar Point. And then for whatever reason, the owners of SeaWorld said no. And then a few years later, they decided to just move a few miles south to Geauga Lake when Geauga Lake approached them. I don't know of any other locations that SeaWorld were looking at. I mean, of course, you get a few years later, they then expanded into Orlando. But I think a lot of the reason why like Orlando was never chosen was to do with the fact that it was still, there were tourist attractions in Central Florida in like the mid 60s, but Orlando was still a relative unknown for someone like SeaWorld. But no, if you're asking like SeaWorld Michigan or something, I haven't seen anything to those.
Oh.
SeaWorld Michigan's Adventure Part 2.
I mean, feels like it could have been a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. Why
On the
not?
Great Lake?
The people of Michigan. Yeah, put Shamu in the lake. Why not?
Put Shamu in the lake?
Yeah, just put him in the lake. Just put him in the lake. It works. We'll find him on Mission Bermuda Triangle of the Great Lakes. But I'm glad that you brought up the Cedar Point thing, which is something I did not realize. I didn't know that they wanted a SeaWorld right next to Cedar Point, which would have been fascinating. But it is interesting, though, the connection, because in 1960-ish, I believe, it was established that, Earl... George, do you know how to pronounce his last name? The manager who was working with Geauga Lake, he used to work at Cedar Point. It's like Earl Gascione or something.
Is it Gascoigne?
Yeah, Gascoigne, whatever. Yeah, my dumb American brain doesn't know when an I and a G and an N and an E are together. So, why is Demi laughing at me with my pronunciation? I don't know. I just like George is smarter. George is from the
George
UK.
is smarter,
so
yes.
George is smarter than us.
Is that the bar that you're setting?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's a low bar.
As if the people in the UK don't already think that. Come on now. But so he was a former manager of Cedar Point who was working with Geauga Lake, which, as you said, is an amusement park that was across the lake. I also used to go there all the time as a child. But Geauga Lake essentially offered up the land for lease and then courted the SeaWorld team to lease it. Like you said, it was opened in 1970. It was the second SeaWorld location in the chain after the San Diego location. And it was also, George, you note this in your video, I found it really fascinating. It was the first SeaWorld park to have a giant tank and an arena for the orcas to perform in and live in versus the SeaWorld in San Diego, that teeny tiny tank, which you also include clips of in the video. When I saw the size of that tank, I had never seen that before. it is so incredibly, unbelievably tiny. Like the diameter, I looked it up, is reported to have only been 100 feet. And that's not just, they didn't just put the whale there for the performance and then take them back to no, that's where that whale lived.
Yeah,
In that
it's
teeny tiny little
really,
tank.
really crazy. I mean so Shamu, the whole concept, and there's potentially a future look that I want to take about orcas in general, but the whole concept of captive orcas only really came about in the 60s. And it was a
Yeah.
few years earlier that the first orca was captured in about the same place that Shamu was, if my history is serving me right here. But and that whale was kept in a similar tank, and that one unfortunately died very soon after it was captured.
Yeah.
And so it was still this kind of this moment of a little bit of apathy from people, but also a little bit of just they didn't know how to take care of these whales. And even, honestly, my opinion is even with the tank that they built in Ohio, that still wasn't big enough. It was slightly larger, and the benefit that I thought of the tank that they built in Ohio was that the success of that show then prompted them to build finally a bigger tank in San Diego. So at least something good came of it in that way. But yeah, that first tank was they just put her in there and people just, and the only expansion they made in those first few years was not to build a bigger tank. It was just to build bigger grandstands.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely disturbing. And I mean, I, encourage people to, read up on this topic, from back then and how it has evolved certainly through to today. But I definitely encourage people to, form their own opinions and look up researching orcas in captivity even through today, and inform yourself on the things that are happening with that, because it is a really eye-opening thing to be well informed on. So definitely do not take this episode necessarily as our endorsement of this. We are simply discussing something historical that happened, but please educate yourselves and go look this up. But fascinatingly enough, as you also point out, when the park opened, it did have a seal show, there were dolphins, this Japanese village, and the pearl diving I always used to love when I was a kid, because it was I know they have this also in Orlando, but the one in Ohio felt so cool because they had shoji screens, and they had like a little stone, I guess you call it like a tub, or it almost looks like a oversized bathtub where you could watch the divers go down and get these little pearls and bring them up. And it was always really cool. Actually, that tank actually scared me as a child, but I don't know why. It was very dark. It was a very dank area. But Demi, you know how I feel about dark and dank with Finding Nemo submarine voyage. You know how I feel about that. But they also, George, you noted, and they definitely did not have this when I was there, but they had an area where you could fish and take home trout. You could fish in the park. It looked like people were holding like bamboo sticks and fishing for the trout. But they were then packed on ice. So can you imagine walking around with like an iced fish in your purse, Demi?
No, actually, I really can't. 'Cause that sounds horrible.
Sounds absolutely horrifying.
I've had multiple people in the comments of that video tell me about their own experiences at that trout fishing pond.
Oh my God.
Spill them. What'd they say?
Yes, so it was, I believe, I questioned in the video if you had to take your trout with you throughout the park. And according to people in the comments, you didn't, thankfully. They took it from you and they packed it on ice and they had it waiting for you at the exit at the park at the end of the day. However, I didn't end up including this in the video. I did find a source on a forum that said when you caught the trout, the way that they killed the trout was they had like teen seasonal workers that just sort of took the trout around the back and bonked it on the head. And
what?
That was, yeah.
Oh my God, that's awful.
George has us totally stunned. Wait a minute.
Oh my God.
There's an interesting connection to Disney as well for this. We can dwell more on the SeaWorld trout if you want, but there is an interesting connection before I forget. They used to have a very similar thing in Disneyland when it first opened down by the rivers of America. I don't believe the intention there was to kill fish and take them home with you. I think you were supposed to put them back. But the famous issue with the fishing on the rivers of America was that there was nobody there to supervise whether or not you were supposed to put them back. So people would try and take them with them, and what you'd end up with were a load of dead fish in Frontierland. So that's why they got rid of that.
And a bunch of fish purses. That's what you had. You had fish in the purses. That's where fish was going in the purse with no ice.
Oh my! How did I never know about that? I feel like I watch a lot of what's not ominous? What's the word? Like you just
it's like an ever present. You absorb it. It's omnipresent.
Omnipresent, like things of Disney history. How have I
never heard that?
Never heard of this. No. That is the most wild thing ever. How long? Do you know how long that lasted?
I have no idea. It was it was 1955 around, like it must have been in the first few years.
Man, the 50s and 60s, man. Like what was going on? Society, culture, Disneyland.
They didn't have as much to do, so they were like, hey, here's another activity at Disney.
Fish murder.
G-ticket list activity.
G-ticket at Disneyland. Yeah. Fish murder.
That's the better rides, the G-ticket.
Yes, that's right. I can't even believe that, and I am so glad that people have testimonials in the comments that we can now verify. It was waiting for you at the end. However, unfortunate demise of the fish, did not realize that. We do love a bit of murder here on Park Peeps. But we famously love a bit of murder here. Also, dismemberment, because Demi is still walking around on her stubs from Epic Universe a few weeks ago. So, yes. Now, despite having surpassed attendance expectations with around 1 million people visiting in the first year, I think that doubles what they thought it was going to bring in. So it seemed to be a pretty good investment at the time. I always found this fascinating too, even as a child. Like the park did have a climate issue, given that it was only able to operate from May through about like September-ish, sometimes October. But given the East Coast climate and everything was outdoors, it didn't have anything indoors like the SeaWorld in the Middle East currently is fully indoor, except for a few portions of the roller coaster that they have there. So that was an issue. And the animals had to be transported from Ohio to either Orlando or San Diego. And a whale named, I believe, Candu was shipped literally all the way to San Diego. And there's lots of images documenting this process, even through to the later years. There's photography.
This is how we first ever started talking about this, right? This is
with the Coaster Kings.
Talking about it.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yeah.
With the whales literally being like lifted with these sort of contraptions and helicoptered in and out. It was just the wildest sight. But because I believe they still did this through the Six Flags years, because it's not like they have a separate park to house all of these animals indoors, so they had to ship them when it got really cold. But also in the off season, after the first year of operation, Candu died in San Diego, but then there was another whale who they then flew in Candu's place on a canvas sling.
Okay.
Yes.
Canvas sling?
Yes. And George, could you please tell everyone what happened when they attempted to hoist this whale into his tank in front of a crowd of people?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty terrifying. So they invited the general public to watch this happen. They had these big grandstands that they had built around the Shamu pool. And they invited a whole bunch of people. It was just before the park was due to open for the season, in to see this happen. They hoisted Candu up into the air, and then the canvas sling broke when she was suspended in the air. And they had to suddenly sort of jump into action and lower her safely into the tank. Or, it wasn't Candu, was it? It was...
was it Candu? I thought it was Candu.
Or, I can't remember.
Oh, wait. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Candu died. Kilroy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. So poor Kilroy is sitting there. Imagine just like someone lifting you up from your vacation home in San Diego and being like, guess where you're going? Ohio. And we're going to wake you up in the morning after a long day of travel, and we're going to hoist you into your bed and invite hundreds of people to watch you, and then we're just going to drop you. Kilroy, wherever you are, diva, we at Park Peeps are so sorry.
Yes. I mean, like, and the fact that they invited people to watch this, like, there's definitely like children watching this.
Yeah.
And
There must have been a point
gosh.
there where you know, if you're operating SeaWorld Ohio, you see that happen and you go, you know, there is something wrong going on here. Like,
Yeah.
it is, yeah. I'm not a fan of that story. It does. This was a regular occurrence as well. Just the back and forth between Ohio and initially San Diego, and then it was Texas. Yeah, there are just so many stories of the sort of the difficult treatment of these whales.
I mean, hey, you know what? It's the 70s. I mean the freewheeling 70s.
Still not great, not right.
No, not great at all. No,
No,
but we're
this
making
is very
progress. We're making progress.
I mean, like, yeah, SeaWorld is very different now, and they're getting better by the day.
For sure. Well, they're, you know, it's like the opposite. The animal stuff is getting better, but their rides are getting worse. It's the opposite these days. George, actually, how frequently do you travel to the U.S. parks?
Very infrequently. It's quite a like a significant trip to go. So that's why most of my videos are history videos. Because I mean, mainly because I just love the history, but it's also something that I can continue to do when I'm not able to get out to the US parks. Hopefully, I don't want to set anything in stone yet, but hopefully in 2026 I'll be back. But yeah, it's not like a yearly thing or anything. It's
Right.
Have you done the SeaWorld parks?
Yes. The last time, though, SeaWorld is not like a priority for me when I go. The last time I went to SeaWorld was like 2014. So it's been a while. Yeah.
I would say it's probably still not a priority for at least myself. I cannot speak for others.
I love Hollow Scream.
Demi does love Hallow Scream.
It's such a good event. If you ever can go during like September or October, and you can go to there, and if you want to do some Halloween events, and everybody should go watch my Hollow Scream video. It's hilarious.
I knew that was coming. On
YouTube, but it's a really good event, and it doesn't get the love it deserves because it's under the umbrella of SeaWorld, and I think, you know, just because of things like we're talking about now, people don't want to go to SeaWorld, even though they have, again, it's been many years since that, but you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, during this period, they also built a large arena for viewing jet ski and water stunt performances on the lake between Geauga Lake and SeaWorld, which is it includes the most unhinged thing I've ever seen. Something else I learned from your video, George, the water skiing elephant, which you somehow found footage of. And first of all, I need to know where you found that footage. And also, how the hell did they accomplish this? How do you teach an elephant to water ski? Did you find out any information on that?
I think the answer is that you don't really teach the elephant how to water ski. Just sort of strap it in and then...
I'm dying. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Sometimes the simplest path is the straight through. And George took us there.
I did find the name of that elephant, but it escapes me now. So the video was a like Super 8 home video that somebody uploaded to YouTube that I found. But yeah, it was a really young elephant as well. You can tell because I think there's also like a weight thing to water skiing. Yeah, short answer is no idea how they teach an elephant to water ski.
It sounds like a children's song or something, like a
teach an
elephant to water ski, and it's just like, and the lesson at the end is like, just because you weren't meant to water ski doesn't mean you can't.
I'm gonna cry. Oh my god, Demi. What about we're saying like, we're like, this is awful, we don't endorse this, and making the worst jokes ever. I love this.
It is awful. I don't endorse it, but like, I mean, like, it does sound like a children's book or a children's song or something. Like,
we have to make light of this somehow,
wait,
or else we're gonna cry.
Can we write a children's book?
Yes. We are doing it now. George, you are co-authoring it with us. So it's going to be, teach an elephant to water ski. That's the book. There we go.
Sounds like, you know, they're saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
But you can teach an elephant to water ski.
Water ski.
A young elephant to water ski. Yes, you can. Oh, this is so crazy. Well, I mean that truly, and I love that they also gave her like little showgirl. There wasn't, if I recall, there was like a feather on top of its head, and it had like a little costume.
Don't love it. It's not good for them to wear it.
No, but I don't love the fact. Okay, this elephant. I don't know how long do elephants live. This elephant's probably long dead, and I'm so sorry for what this elephant had to go through during its life. But the image of an elephant wearing like a showgirl costume while water skiing,
no.
it's just so absurd. It is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's absurd, but it's also terrible.
It's terrible. No, oh yeah, I'm not saying absurd. I'm saying absurd derogatory. I'm not saying absurd like supportive. I would never support this today. Now, in 1973, the infamous SeaWorld Orlando opens. It was the same year that SeaWorld Ohio opened the Triquarium, which is a building that is still standing today. It is one of the few buildings on site that's still there. More on that later. But around this time, they also started doing shows with very odd themes. And there was Shamu Goes to Hollywood, but then the most peculiar one, Shamu for Mayor. And there's images of that George you put in the video that are like people holding up signs that are like elect Shamu and Shamu. What is the plot? How did SeaWorld craft? Did you find anything about the actual plot of this show and what the show was about?
I think you've got it. I think Shamu was running for mayor. I don't know.
Is he running against Donald, like in the Disneyland game?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other one.
Oh no, Donald Duck! Oh no. See where my brain automatically goes to is Donald Duck and Disney World. You remember how like Donald was supposed to run for trying to like beat Mickey or run for mayor? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go crawl into a ditch.
Yeah.
I think
so George summed it up.
Yeah, I think what you find is like the serious answer is just like they were kind of just every year there was like a weird new show across the whole of the SeaWorld park. So the first show that they did with Shamu was a Dr. Dolittle show. So it was, and they were all kind of the same thing. It was like Shamu will swim around the tank and then we'll have props that will be whatever this theme is. So it was like Shamu was going for a doctor's visit and the trainer was Dr. Dolittle. And then the next year it was like Shamu runs for mayor. And then it was just they had, I don't know, political props of some sort. And then they had, in 74, they had, I can't remember the exact name, but it was something like Shamu USA or something because of the bicentennial.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't really until like the 90s or so, maybe even later than that SeaWorld started doing those really kind of story-based shows. I don't know if you guys remember the 2000 show at SeaWorld Believe, which is infamous for all sorts of other reasons. But they had these very kind of Disney-esque shows with video segments and a storyline throughout the show. But back in the 70s, it was just kind of like, here's some doctor's props and that's it.
It's almost like Monty Python-esque of like just putting something so absurd with something else that is so absurd. But this begs the question, and we'll go around the room. Would you vote for Shamu for mayor? Demi?
I mean, like, as long as he is treated like a good mayor, like there's nothing wrong. Like, yeah, I mean, yes, because like I love whales. But I mean, in a good, safe environment, yeah.
Shamu is for marriage equality.
Well, then obviously.
Then we're voting for him. George, are you voting for Shamu for mayor?
Well, I was going to say, what are his policies? But
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, let's vote for Shamu.
That's his only platform. Shamu is standing on the platform of marriage equality.
He's a single-issue candidate.
Yes, he's a single-issue candidate. He's also anti-fracking, actually. That's his second one. He's pro-LGBT marriage and anti-fracking. So, Shamu, you're getting a 3-pronged Park Peeps vote today. You are mayor, officially. Shamu, you're mayor. But, moving on, SeaWorld's platform expanded in the 80s. There was a location that opened in San Antonio, and then Anheuser-Busch acquired the chain. At the end of the 80s, And this was around the time that the theme park industry competition really heated up with the opening of new parks. MGM Studios, Universal Studios Florida were opening up in the late 80s. And then the company wanted to invest in bringing more themed entertainment and, more importantly, rides and attractions to the SeaWorld parks, which saw the addition of several rides and roller coasters to its other properties. Now, George, as you discussed, they had I guess you could call it a non-compete with Geauga Lake across the way, where they were not allowed to open any rides. However, I am going to go on a brief overview of things that they did open in this time period. They opened attractions that were, frankly, they ranged from cute and quite unique to downright spine-tinglingly terrifying.
Oh.
Starting with, in 1992, they opened a pathway with animatronic dinosaurs, one of which I found for sale on eBay for $6,000. Today, you can buy this dinosaur for $6,000 on eBay. Well, you know what? It said 4 other people had it in their cart.
Oh.
So I might be having some competition. I know the other 2 were you 2, so we just got to figure out the 4th one.
Do you guys remember the era when there was the monorail for sale on eBay? I think like about 10 years ago, like a full retired monorail that was like $130,000, collection only, of course, but
like with track included?
Not with track, no, but like the front, the control carriage. I don't know what you'd call that. The front part of the monorail.
That's amazing.
That is insane. Wait, so this is also part of Shamu's decades-long restoration initiative of recycling old theme park things for the betterment of the environment. He's also the 4th person who has the dinosaur in the car because he's trying to return the dinosaur back home. So he's bringing them home. Bring the troops home. That's what Shamu's saying on his platform.
And he's going to find Buzzy.
Wait, what?
Shamu's going to find Buzzy.
Yes. He's going to find Buzzy. He has to find Buzzy. Okay, that is, you know what? I think do I hear Shamu 2028? Is that what I'm heading for this? George, you got to get citizenship so you can vote for Shamu, because we're starting the platform right now. But I will put on the Peep line this week, I will put the Reddit thread that links to some videos from this dinosaur thing, which is some of them are so terrifying. If you have submechanophobia, do not look at this because it is absolutely horrifying. Some of them are half submerged in water. They have really long necks.
Wait, what was the word you just said?
Submechanophobia? It's a thing. It's a thing.
Clearly it's a thing. You like had that ready in your pocket. What?
Oh, I did.
And it's people who are afraid of being submerged in water?
No, people who are afraid of machinery or animatronics that are underwater.
That's, that's so specific.
Demi, there's whole videos on this on YouTube. You need to look at it. There are some that are so terrifying. But I will also post a link to the $6,000 dinosaur that is in one of the videos that is for sale. But they also had, get this, they had a Baywatch, like the television show, a Baywatch-themed water stunt show on the lake, which, unfortunately, in 1996, there was a very unfortunate incident where an 18-foot boat malfunctioned, crashed into the audience, injured 22 people. 4 of them were critically injured. Nobody died, according to the Chicago Tribune. But then there's also this really fascinating attraction that they had that I remember doing. It was called Pirates 4D, and it opened in 1997. It was a 4D theater stage show it was very much in the vein of Muppet Vision, but this starred actually Eric Idle and Leslie Nielsen, and they were all pirates going on this island adventure. SeaWorld Ohio, and I didn't realize this, was actually the pioneering park for this attraction that eventually opened later at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Busch Gardens Tampa, Thorpe Park in the UK. Shout out to George. There was also Six Flags New Orleans it opened at, and then the other SeaWorld parks. I don't believe it was in the Orlando one, but then it was also at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas.
It was at Luxor?
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
It's nuts that SeaWorld Ohio actually pioneered this. It was the first park to have this show, and it had in-seat like sound effects. It had like the sort of audio that would go around your ears. You weren't wearing headphones.
Wait, why would they put it at Luxor when Treasure Island was right there?
Who the hell knows? But there were also vibrations. There was water, of course, water and air squirting at your face. There were even like little things that they would like push into your calves. Like there was to simulate things that were touching you. And
Oh,
then there were
God.
also effects. There was like a smoke ring from a cannon, and there were seagulls that pooped on you, and they dropped warm water from above on you to simulate that. Yeah,
It
it was
feels more like alien encounter and
Terrifier wet path.
It's terrifying.
But and then in 2000 they got around the ride mandate by implementing technically a ride, Mission Bermuda Triangle, the inspiration for our Oscar-winning opening of this episode. But
Yes.
it was the only ride at the park because it was a motion simulator, as you said in your video, George, and not a technical ride. So, but then fast forwarding, in 2000, they were sold to Six Flags for only $110 million, which is surprising to me. And then it opened as a super park called Six Flags. Well, it was Six Flags Ohio before the acquisition. Six Flags acquired Geauga Lake prior to that. It was Six Flags Ohio. They made some major investments, put some huge roller coasters in there, some of which are still in operation today at other Six Flags parks. But then when they were acquired, they turned it into a place called Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, which was huge. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, this place was... It was like the best super park you could ever imagine. Imagine being 11 years old
Yeah.
and going to this. It was a roller coaster park that was so well kept. It was so well themed on the amusement park side, and then walking around to the other side to having all of these animals and these aquariums and the simulator and this. There's a water park. It was honestly, if I'm being completely honest, like it was kind of more fun than Cedar Point. I'm not gonna lie.
Ooh.
And it just felt, I hate when the theme park community overuses this word, but the word massive does not apply to anything else in my mind more fittingly than it does to what Six Flags Worlds of Adventure was. It was so big.
Yeah.
And they had a Batman, they turned the Baywatch show into a Batman water stunt show because now they had all this IP that they could use. They had a flying roller coaster called X-Flight, which was later moved to Kings Island. It was unfortunately demolished, and the last one in the whole world is actually about to close at Six Flags America.
Rip.
But it had so many amazing things. And Demi, you actually rode one of these coasters that was relocated when you went to Dorney Park.
Dorney Park.
Yes, Possessed.
Which is my favorite.
Yes.
I love it because it's just like fast. It's just up. It's speed, fast, forward, up, down. Like I mean, I love that kind of style, and it's awesome. I'm glad it got moved.
Yeah. It used to be Superman.
Yes.
At Geauga Lake, but I have a lot of great memories from this park. It had my first ever roller coaster that I rode that went upside down called the Double Loop. It had a really, really, really great old wooden roller coaster called the Raging Wolf Bobs, which was amazing. And then the Batman roller coaster that they built there, which is now at King's Dominion, called Dominator, was actually my favorite roller coaster as a kid for a really, really long time. So it was
Which one is Dominator?
It's the floorless coaster. It's at the front of the park.
Yeah.
And it's just, so most of these coasters got relocated, but, unfortunately it did close in 2004. It was sold to Cedar Fair, which rebranded it back to Geauga Lake.
Wait, hold on. Did they relocate the coasters like they relocated the whales?
Yeah, they picked up the Superman coaster in a sling, and they invited the whole crowd to Dorney Park. And they dropped it, and it shattered everywhere. Yes, Demi, that's exactly what they did. But I'm glazing over a lot because I want to talk a little bit about this more in depth. But it did eventually close forever in 2007, but remained open as a water park. And then, George, as you said, 2016, that all closed. So it is no longer operating as anything. But it is to date the only SeaWorld park that has ever closed. But I just wonder, George, why do you think... the current, I was going to say Cedar Fair, but they're not Cedar Fair anymore. The current company, which is known as the Six Flags Entertainment Corporation, why do we think that they spun this property off so quickly? And why did they not just keep it operating. It doesn't make sense to me because they have Kings Island in Ohio, they have Cedar Point in Ohio, a third park in Ohio. You're just maximizing your joint sleigh in Middle America. Like, why? I don't understand why not just keep it operating.
It could be like the Orlando of the North.
Yeah.
I think it was just a lot of overexpansion during that era from Six Flags. Like, there was a point at which they were just spending so much and they were acquiring a lot of parks as well. Six Flags history specifically, I'm not so brushed up on, but I do know that there was just like a lot that they were buying. And you go back and look at a lot of the history of various Six Flags parks, and it's that it used to be something else and then it was bought by Six Flags. And it was just this case that they bought these and then some of them just didn't quite operate. They basically, because they spent so much money and they invested so much in the parks, they had these really, really high attendance requirements to even make their money back in the first place. And so attendance at a place like Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, or whatever it was called during its final years, just like didn't match up to these just gigantic expectations. And so they really just couldn't afford to keep it open.
It's unfortunate because it was such a great place. It really was. The atmosphere was unlike anything else. But I just wonder then why Cedar Fair didn't keep it, because they didn't set those attendance goals and they have a completely different business model. Well, not different business model, but like a different approach to the same business model. So I just wonder if it was just an oversaturation of Ohio and that whole region, because then they also had Dorney, Michigan's Adventure, not too far away. So I wonder if it was just one park too many for them in that area to keep going. But then it's like, why keep the water park open? Like, I don't...
Well, I know why they keep the water park open. It's like when I went to Dorney, like when you are not near an ocean, like for families to do in the summer, like that's their beach. They go to the water park. So like when I went to Dorney, I went like during the week in July, the park was ghost town. Like it was crazy ghost town, but everybody and their mom was at that water park. So because when I was watching your video, George, I clocked that immediately as soon as you like pointed that part in the video, and I was like, that makes sense. I'm honestly surprised it even closed down at all, because I guess it could, economic reasons or whatever, people doing less things, but when you don't have access to a body of water, it's kind of like why Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon and are always so busy during the summer, and when people were begging them to open up both parks again, because all the families like to go there during summer, because otherwise they got to go like an hour and a half to the beach. So and I also just want to quickly say, because I didn't know about this Six Flags park until I watched George's video, because I went in only with the knowledge of what Joey told me, and your video is so good, and finding out about this huge park, it looked incredible.
It was. And
I really, it's so sad, because like I said before, it really could have been like the Orlando of the North Midwest.
Well, the cities are a little bit further apart. I mean, Aurora, Ohio is, I guess it's not that far away from Cedar Point. It would have been too far to make like a transportation connection. Right. Cincinnati, definitely way too far. But I mean, Ohio definitely was at this time. I mean, it still is considered a not theme park, roller coaster destination. But like, if Geauga Lake had stayed open, there were rumors, and I mean, they were very credible rumors from the sources I remember even hearing at the time as a kid, that there was plans to build a hypercoaster out over the lake at Geauga Lake that were canceled after the acquisition, obviously. But so Six Flags was still thinking about investing in this place, and I can only imagine they had so much room. There was nothing around that park. I mean, they could have very easily expanded out. And if you take all the animal stuff out, there's so much opportunity that you could have had there. So it was really sad. I remember when that place when it was announced as closing. So I don't know. Like, I mean, George, do you think in given the research that you've done on this, do you think that the SeaWorld Ohio's closure as SeaWorld Ohio before the acquisition and everything, do you think that its closure was inevitable, or do you think that it could have been saved given that it had that clause that was like, you can't build rides?
Do you mean so up to the year 2000 when SeaWorld closed, or when it became
Yeah.
this sort of mega park afterwards?
Yeah, do you think that its closure was inevitable as a SeaWorld park? Do you think it could have thrived, or it could have been saved and exists through to today
I think the
on
thing
its
that,
original terms?
Yeah, I think the thing that made SeaWorld Ohio a really difficult ask was its seasonality. Like
Yeah.
it was the only, particularly like you get to the year 2000 and there's now 4 SeaWorld parks, and it's the only one that is still closing over the winter. Of course, there's the we include the sort of the no rides clause as well. That's a big reason as well, because it was also like it fell behind in a big way. It was like
Yeah.
all of these other 3 parks, not only were they open year round because they were in like sunny climates, Florida, Texas, California, but it was also that they were able to bring these new attractions the same year. I think I say this in the video, the same year that SeaWorld was opening, or SeaWorld Ohio was opening its motion simulator, if I'm getting my facts right. SeaWorld in Texas was opening like its first roller coaster, and it was just the comparison. These other parks were expanding so massively, and SeaWorld Ohio just couldn't keep up. So I think it was those two things. It was the seasonality and just the lack of kind of modern expansion and ability to expand that really killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does still have, I mean, there's even still interest in that area through to today. I mean, like we said, there's urban explorers that continue to document a lot of the buildings that are still standing, but the local government in Aurora actually just bought the property for $1.3 million in December 2024.
Ooh.
They plan to turn it into a public park with a pool using the Triquarium, which is still standing. She's still going, that old diva. She is still going. They want to turn that into a restaurant, and there's a little beach that they want to turn into. And then they want to turn the old wave pool into just a regular pool.
Yeah.
So it still could be serving some sort of purpose in the future. But an interesting point that I also discovered in researching this, one of the whales, Keto, was born in Orlando in June 1995, was shipped to SeaWorld San Diego in 1999, then to Ohio in 2000, then San Antonio in 2001, and then to a park called Loro Parque in the Canary Islands, where he actually killed a trainer in 2009, literally months prior to the death of Dawn Brancho at SeaWorld Ohio. Or at SeaWorld Orlando. So, I mean, it's just, this is a pattern that, you know, when whales are kept this long, it's like this is their mind and their psychology is just not meant to you know, to be in closure like this.
Am I like dumb, or did I totally like miss? Like, if they had all these conditions with Geauga Lake, not Giada the cook, I always have to make sure.
Geauga Lake.
I always think it's going to be Giada the chef. Geauga Lake. Why would they like essentially like stay there?
Because I mean, you open that place, you put $5.5 million into it, and then your initial attendance doubles what your projection was. I mean, that's a pretty good, and it was healthily attended. It really was.
I think the thing with Ohio, with SeaWorld, is that in its first few years, when they had the no ride clause, it was successful. And at least in the 70s, their image of what a SeaWorld park was we don't need rides. Like,
so different.
This is a marine mammal park. It's not really a theme park. It was only, like, the issues only really started occurring once Anheuser-Busch bought it and was like, this is no longer a marine mammal park. This is a theme park. So it was kind of when SeaWorld was successful, and then the industry just kind of moved on. And honestly, you can make that comparison with modern day SeaWorld as well. I think one of the things that SeaWorld is struggling with in general now is that the industry has moved on from what SeaWorld used to be. Their big draw was Shamu. And now SeaWorld are sort of like kind of stuck with Shamu in this sense of like they kind of still have this show, but they're trying really hard for the inevitable, because SeaWorld have stopped breeding killer whales, for example. Eventually they're going to not have that anymore. But they're sort of stuck between these two things. They can't fully decide if they're like a marine park or a theme park.
Yeah. And I think that begs the interesting question, though, too, of should they have just, instead of Geauga Lake leasing this land to them, they should have just merged from the beginning. And I think if they had merged from the beginning, the entire property would probably still be there, to be honest.
I think that would work.
Yeah, I do too. I think right in the late 60s, early 70s, if they had just merged and had that foresight to be like, this is where this is moving, especially at that time, since Disney World was very well under construction, maybe having that foresight of seeing forward to that, we could maybe be sitting here with a mega SeaWorld park in Ohio that is seasonal or had enough money to just build a whole roof over it like people think is over Disney World right now. But the last thing, I think
hit that
button and then just close the dome.
Yeah.
But George, the last thing I think we want to ask is, what do you think SeaWorld Ohio's legacy is? Did it have an impact on the themed industry going forward? The story of this park, its opening, its closure, its acquisition.
Oh man, I mean, in terms of its impact on like SeaWorld as a brand, I view SeaWorld Ohio as like their kind of their first attempt, and it's an interesting story of like the hurdles when you're trying to expand eastwards, and it's sort of like I don't know, to me it's just an example of this is a tough question that you've asked. To me, yeah, it's an interesting story of like the difficulties that come from expanding into that particular market, and why we have such a big industry in places like Orlando, places like California. The Six Flags story is so much more about like the issues with overexpansion. I reckon it could have also, like you said, if it merged in the 70s, would it have survived today? I think also if it had just like remained small, it could have survived today, because the overexpansion was a thing that ultimately killed the Six Flags project. So I think it's just sort of lasting impact. It's kind of a case study of like the do's and don'ts of expanding into Ohio.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense at all.
Brilliant answer. No, that totally makes sense. And it because it's like a SeaWorld is as much as SeaWorld gets some flack for things, forgive the comparison, but it's no like small fry fish. It's really is a big. It's no small fry fish.
Say that.
It is no small fry fish. It is. It's a big, recognizable, iconic theme park brand, and to have one of its parks actually close, that's a big deal. So like something went wrong. And these many steps along the way. And it's a very weird, fascinating history. We love weird things at Park Peeps, and more than weird things, we love a good, knowledgeable guest, especially one with a British accent. So thank you so much, George, for joining us.
Thank you so much,
George. But just like SeaWorld Ohio, it is time for us to dive into the depths of obscurity and shut down, for this episode, at least. So follow along with our continued theme park antics at Park Peeps Pod on socials, and make sure you're subscribed to our free Substack, parkpeepspodcast.substack.com. Make sure you're following George's YouTube channel as well, because there will be plenty more coming, as I am sure. So thank you again, George.
Yeah. Is there anywhere else they can follow you, George?
Yeah, the best place that you can find me is if you just open up YouTube and type my name. My name is George Browning. I am on Twitter and Blue Sky as well. I'm not a big tweeter, but I'm George A. Browning on Twitter, if you want to find me on there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, George. And make sure to keep up with me, Demi, at Magical Hijinks. That's HAJINX. And follow Joey at Joey Nolfi. And stay tuned next week when we return with an all-new episode. See you next time. Bye-bye.